Hi, everyone, and welcome to our solution session. I'm Kelly Mills, Director of Learning Experience R&D at Digital Promise. I'm thrilled today to be facilitating a discussion about AI literacy with some of the field's leading experts. Our session today will be in three parts. First, I'm going to give a short overview of AI literacy, what it is, and why it's a crucial skill set in today's educational landscape. Then, we're going to be engaging in a discussion about AI literacy, hearing the unique perspectives of each of our panelists. Let's get started. What is AI literacy? Digital Promise defines AI literacy as the knowledge and skills that enable people to critically understand, evaluate, and use AI systems and tools to safely and effectively participate in an increasingly digital world. In our recently published report, we present a framework for AI literacy. In the framework, we intentionally selected a graphic that illustrates the interconnectedness of understanding, evaluating, and using AI to illustrate that all three are critical to making informed decisions about if and how to use AI in different contexts. Underscoring our framework is human judgment and justice, which are core values for applying AI in appropriate contexts and mitigating the harmful effects of algorithms. For educators, the development of AI literacy is a necessary prerequisite to harnessing the power of emerging technologies for powerful teaching and learning. For learners, AI literacy can equip them with essential skill sets to responsibly use emerging technology for the good of society throughout their lives and in the workforce. Using the concepts of AI literacy, learners, leaders, educators, and caregivers can work collaboratively to make more informed decisions about if and how to adopt emerging technologies to promote safe and effective use of AI tools in our lives. We have such an exciting group of experts here with us to discuss AI literacy today, and I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves now.
Hi, I'm Sofia de Jesus. I am the Associate Program Manager from Carnegie Mellon University for CMU CS Academy, which is a curriculum project for Python learning in schools. And it is a free product, and we offer professional development. And I am also a CSTA Equity Fellow alum at this point. We just finished our year, and I worked on the equity framework, the AI framework for administrators and leaders with Dr. Glazer, who's also on this call. And I'm also the author of Applied Computational Thinking with Python, which is on its second edition, and it's published through PAC Publishing.
Hey everyone, I'm Sallie Hollway. I'm the Director of AI and Computer Science for Gwinnett County Public Schools. We are just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, serving around 182,000 students. And I have the pleasure of supporting our district's Computer Science for All initiative, as well as an AI Ready pilot that we've been doing for about 5 years now. So really excited to join the conversation today and hoping to share some of our insights.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kip Glazer. I am the proud principal of Mountain View High School in Mountain View, California, home of Google. I serve 2,200 students on a daily basis and their families and about 200 staff members. And I'm excited to join this conversation as a school site leader, how we can actually practically implement all the research that is coming out of the field. So thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meda Tare. I'm the Senior Director of Research at the Joan Gans Cooney Center, which is a nonprofit R&D center within Sesame Workshop. And we work to help creators of media and technology for kids and families do it in ways that are child-centered, evidence-based, and bring the positive aspects of technology that we know that it can have. So I'm excited to talk with you all today. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to kick off our discussion today with some questions about understanding AI. Understanding AI is an essential component of AI literacy because in order to make informed decisions about using and evaluating AI, users should have a basic understanding of what AI can do and how it works. At its origination, artificial intelligence was considered a subset of mathematics and computer science. Since then, advances in technology have enabled computational devices to become increasingly integrated throughout all sectors of life and work. Computers can now collect and store data about almost anything and are equipped with the processing speed to analyze it quickly. These advances have enabled AI to move from a field of study to a much more interdisciplinary and relevant tool. So, how is AI currently being applied in your context or practice? Sallie.
Thanks, Kelly. Here in Gwinnett, we've been really lucky to have some awesome partners and forward-thinking leaders that really, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, saw this on the horizon and thought, how are we going to prepare our students? How are we going to prepare our teachers, our community? Which launched what we called our AI-ready learning. And so we developed a framework and started embedding that K-12 into students' normal learning activities. And really what that was a focus on literacy, AI literacy. How do we make sure that our students know what AI is, how it works, just like you just said, and can be responsible and ethical users, developers, decision makers, right, wherever they may end up. And so we've been doing that for several years now. When we hit the ChatGPT boom a couple of years ago, it was very much like this is what we've been waiting for moment. And so that led us to then create some guidance for the rest of our system around best practices for use and evaluation, some guiding principles about how we think about AI and how we interact with AI, and kind of what's going to be our process for using AI tools, right? And so while there's a lot of power and potential, there's also a lot of risk, especially for a K-12 setting. And so for us, what we're thinking about is how do we leverage the power while mitigating the risk? And so we are really starting with a focus on our staff, specifically teachers. Teachers have a lot on their plate, right? So how can we leverage AI as an assistant, as a productivity tool, as a co-planner so that they can really focus their time with students? And while we are thinking about how our students might use it, there's not a ton that's really age appropriate. And so there's a lot of modeling and demonstration and demystifying happening, but being really cautious about which tools we put into the hands of students and at what age is a conversation that we're having constantly, right? As there's so many new tools coming out all the time. So for us, we're really thinking about guidance, support, building literacy, and then again, thinking about productivity for teachers and age appropriateness and meaningfulness for student use.
Yeah, and then for me, I think that it's a little different because I am not in the classroom directly. So I do a lot of consulting in this, but I do use AI. We use it a lot in the context of language inclusive CS education. We leverage it for help with our translations in our programs. But I also consult globally, and that is a focus. It's what are the risks? Who should be focused on first? And also, there's a very big push to understand the impacts on the environment. Because if we push this too soon into schools, the use is going to be too massive and it's going to take a toll on the environment way too quickly and way too much. And it is already doing so. So having students like pull AI images all the time, et cetera, we have to actually discuss how that affects the environment as well, because it isn't just the biases that exist, the issues with the data, et cetera. It is also the way that it affects the environment. So what I try to do is explain the uses and the great things that can be done, but also understanding and mitigating those factors that can affect everything else.
Absolutely. And how are you helping your district leaders to answer the questions, how does it work and how can we make it better?
So this is a piece that Kip and I actually worked on. So we have a framework. We did use the digital promise documents. We've been very much in the loop in terms of having that framework for literacy and understanding all of that. And then this past year, Kip and I spent the entire year just understanding the documents globally, the AI Act in the UK, like all of these things that are happening at the state level, but also globally to be able to create a framework that helps leaders and administrators understand, okay, so what do I need to look at? What is the application? Because there's a lot of also misunderstandings about like these are not all very different applications. They're usually built on the same large language model. So it's a wrapper. What is a wrapper? What does it do? How does it sometimes hide information such as the age restrictions? So we have a framework developed and we spent all year just learning and studying and discussing and having conversations so that we could share that with administrators and leaders so that they have a tool that they can use fairly quickly to assess the needs of their districts.
Yeah, for us in Gwinnett, we have been putting together some internal resources. It started first with kind of like our own cross-divisional task force that was creating the guidance to think about, what are the decision points around AI? What are some of the things that we're hearing from our teachers and students? We did some empathy interviews. What are their concerns? What are their hopes? And then that led us to thinking about, so what do we need to really have in mind as we make decisions around AI? What are our principles and what common understandings do we want to make sure everyone has? And so, we did create some guidance to try to level set some of that, but we also put together a few resources in-house that were very layman's terms. I don't have to have a technical background to understand at a high level how AI works, what it's doing with data, how it's making decisions or outputs, and then thinking about what questions do I need to ask a potential vendor as it relates to like how that tool works, right? When I'm thinking about my own problems I might be able to solve, who my end users might be, and of course, data privacy and all the laws that we want to make sure we're following to protect our students. And so we built some training in with a lot of scenarios for them to think through, like what leader move or what move might you make based on this scenario as it relates to AI use. Again, just trying to make it very practical and approachable to someone who may be a little, intimidated by the conversation around AI. And so that's where we started. We've also put together some high-level questions that our district leaders can use when they're interacting with vendors to ask a little bit about how their model works, how they're using data, and what their intended, purpose or use is. So that's been a helpful start for us.
That's great. And thanks so much. We're going to move on to consider how to evaluate AI tools. Leaders must support users of AI to be critical consumers because we know that AI can perpetuate biases and incorrect information. If left unchecked, AI has the potential to cause harm to individuals and communities. We must constantly consider the benefits and costs of AI to individuals, society, and the environment. Human judgment is ultimately responsible for determining if and how it is appropriate to integrate AI outputs or predictions in our lives. How do you help your communities understand the need to evaluate these systems and tools?
I'll jump in. I think that examples and demonstrations of what AI can and can't do well are really helpful. For example, showing that AI has trouble doing something as simple as counting the number of a certain letter in a word, like how many R's are there in the word raspberry, something that a first grader can do, and show that it can make errors, right? And again, referring to it as it, not she or he, but it, because it's a machine, it's not magic. And providing folks with the understanding that humans in the loop are critical, that you're not there to just ensure accuracy, but also things like cultural sensitivity and, protect what's human about the work that we do and the things that we're creative about.
For me, I try to look at it as an ecosystem rather than individual tool and engaging in an intentional conversation with everybody in that ecosystem. So if you're a custodial at a high school site, if you will, and I have interactions and I get questions about how do I improve my job performance, and if there is a tool that can do so, then we have that very quick conversation at the site at the moment. And I think developing that environment of give and take and feedback loop is super important. That's why I think digital promises framework is super useful to use as if a function is done, then is it effective? If so, then how do we improve that? Or if it's not, then how do we adjust it? So that sort of ecosystem approach is super important.
I think I want to just add one thing here. It is critical, as Meta said, to understand what's human, what's not human. Make sure that we understand it as an it, because a lot of the times, a lot of the tools that are being pushed are for like counseling or advisories or something in a school because they don't have the necessary resources. But that is not a good use of AI because AI does not understand. There is a piece, a lot of times it goes like, oh, AI understands language, or AI does not understand. AI is an algorithm. It follows instructions. It spits out information. So it cannot actually be something like a counselor or something like that. So evaluating those uses, what is it that you need from the tool, and making sure that that is a good use of that. sometimes a human is the best answer for those things.
Absolutely. And building on that, to ensure ethical application of AI systems and tools, it is essential that humans remain at the center of it and how we integrate artificial intelligence into any context. How do you ensure humans are looped into the systems and tools that you are integrating into your context?
It's about making sure that, as Sofia said, that my teachers and staff and my students understand it's a tool. It is not replacement of the human intelligence, and building capacity to be able to evaluate and even sometimes criticize. So when I walk into a classroom, I've seen lots of uses of AI tools as a starting point and or almost mistake maker, so that the students and teachers can recognize, wait a minute, this powerful machine that should be giving us all kinds of solutions actually is just wrong. And how do we intervene so that it can get trained? So that having very specific language around the use and who is actually learning and who's owning that experience is what is actually super exciting about using this tool as a tool, not as a replacement of human in any context.
I'll also add that it's when building the technologies, it's really critical to develop them in ways that are inclusive, that are meeting the needs of the diverse communities that we know will use them. We and at the CUNY Center have an initiative called the Sandbox, where we actually co-design technology with kids, and we held design sessions where we had kids working with AI and tell us what they wanted it to be able to do, and with them, and they came up with really creative ideas. One of them was talking about a game where the human kids are working together against the AI, which acts as the villain in the game, and gives them challenges and things like that. So the kids will tell us how they want to interact with it and what they think would be fun and engaging. So those are examples, and we also look to examples of others in the field, like Soapbox Labs has prioritized equity in its AI design, and looking to companies that are doing it in ways that we think are ethical will give us more insight on how to do that.
So, as we are likely aware, there are different ways that one can use AI. Digital Promise distinguishes between three types of use in our framework. These are interacting with AI, such as using an AI enabled tool, creating with AI, such as using a large language model to generate text or an image, and problem solving with AI, such as training an AI system for a specific purpose. What are promising examples that you've seen of how AI can be used in educational settings?
So I'll start, and I'm going to say that language inclusive education is a critical need here in the United States. There's, I think it was over 350 languages. There is no national language in the United States. We have students who speak everything. So, but the teacher doesn't. And communication is really critical in the classroom so that they can understand everything that's happening around them. So there are a lot of applications currently that do that really well, with the caveat that there's absolutely some cultural issues that might come up with language. But I use it on a daily basis for that. I think it's one of the best examples and the best uses currently for AI, which is communication.
And I can give three very distinctive examples. One, we create a flyer for our back to school night and a video tutorial for all our families to be able to use the language translation apps on iOS as well as Android device or even any computer so that they can communicate with their teachers. That's one. Two, we use lots of image or flyer generating tools to be able to communicate visually, not just text. And that's been super helpful for our language learners or other types of community members who may not speak even the written language even in English, right? Because that impacts the production of the fluid communication between two parties. And then third one is the quick generation of multiple choice tests, if you will, for a teacher when they're interacting with the students who may not be able to understand or express what they've learned. But at the moment of assessing that student, teachers can use it very intentionally. So I've seen that happen at my site. And I think if we keep doubling down on the pedagogical foundation, then we can definitely improve student achievement.
I also wanted to add one thing that I forgot to mention, and then accessibility is a massive place where AI has made it different for a lot of students, especially like visually impaired students can get descriptions very easily from images and such. So there's a lot of applications, and Dr. Maya Israel is doing a whole lot of work in that area at the University of Florida. So there's a lot of really good uses in the area of accessibility. Again, anything that helps us bridge gaps for students who are already underrepresented, that's a really great use. For things that are menial tasks, I don't think it's the best use of AI.
And what is a challenge educators face when integrating AI into their teaching, and how can they overcome it?
One of the things that we've seen a lot of is just navigating what tools to use, how to use them. There's a lot of buzz out there about this solution is magic in a bottle and it can solve all of these problems for you. And we know that's not true. But someone who's just entering into the world of AI may not know that's not true, right? And so helping them understand, similar to what we were talking about with our district leaders, to develop their own literacy, but also to navigate, like, how do I know if this is meaningful to me and to my students? And so we try to do some of that work for our teachers by vetting tools and saying, like, hey, we think this is great for this use. But we know teachers are also innovators and they're out there learning and exploring on their own too. So giving them some guardrails, some questions, some literacy and understanding to navigate that for themselves, I think is really important. And I think the more confident they feel in asking the right questions or evaluating a tool, they're going to be a lot more confident than bringing that into their classroom in a meaningful way, which is ultimately our goal.
For me, the conversation tends to focus around specific tool, and I'm having to encourage my staff to really think about what problem are you trying to solve and how does that directly impact student achievement and learning. And also, as Sofia brought up, how do we bridge the opportunity access gap that you can see at a school site? So having to bring them into that pedagogical strategy conversation has been a exciting challenge, actually, because then you can center your conversation around, yeah, you want this tool and how do you intend to use it and what practice that you are going to implement to make sure that your students are all being served.
Yeah, and I'll just add quickly that I mentioned co-design with students. We've also done that with educators and also learning from them how they can incorporate AI literacy into other content areas like STEM or ELA, so that it's not like a standalone thing that they're trying to teach, but part of a literacy lesson in writing and collaborating or integrating AI in some way. So that's one other example.
And I wanted to mention something that we discussed previously, which is the challenge that the apps might go away, that not everything exists for a very long time because this is new technology, it can happen. So planning things, as Kip had mentioned in a previous conversation, things that are kind of agnostic to the tool, more that can be used in the classroom regardless of tools. Because again, this is new technology and things change very quickly.
So that actually brings us to the conclusion of our discussion today. It went by quick. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us and sharing your expertise. Some big ideas came up that reinforce our stance that educators play a critical role in integrating AI literacy throughout K through 12 education so that our current and future communities can effectively participate in our increasingly digital world. For more information, please see our position paper and other resources at digitalpromise.org/AI literacy.